Hey guys, how's it going? It's Andrew Stoll with Stoll Real Estate. I am going to go through the multi-board residential real estate contract 7.0 with you guys. I'm not going to go over every single line or every single paragraph, but I'm going to go over the most common parts of the contract that you would need to address when filling out the contract for a purchase. When working with buyers. So if there's anything I don't go over that's more detailed, feel free to reach out to me, comment below, or you can email me directly at office@stollrealestate.com, STOLL realestate.com. Again, my name is Andrew Stoll. I'm the managing broker at Stoll Real Estate, and I'm happy to help you. We can do a private screen share if you'd like me to go over anything specifically on the contract. But like I said, I'm going to go over kind of the highlights of what you're looking for when filling out an offer for a buyer. So let's get right into it. I'm not going to get into the obvious stuff, buyer's name, seller name, address, stuff like that. So I'm just going to give you some pointers along the way. But the first thing I want to go over is paragraph 3. Now, this is fixtures and personal property. This section, you're going to want to reference the listing, and you're going to want to pick whatever is in the listing and add it here. Now, if you did a showing and you saw something at the property that you don't see included in the listing, you're going to want to reach out to the listing agent and just double check so that when you send this over, all the personal property is accurate. Paragraph 4 is purchase price, and then subparagraph A and B here, closing credit, closing credit and earnest money. Pretty self-explanatory. And then you're going to want to fill in the address in full at the bottom of the page, and that will auto-populate in the subsequent pages. So moving on to page 2, at the very top, line 45, you're going to want to read the listing. So in the agent area at the bottom of a listing, it's going to give you the earnest money instructions. A lot of listing brokerages don't hold earnest money, so you want to make sure you're checking the correct box there on line 45. Closing date, paragraph 5, pretty straightforward. Now, paragraph 7 is financing. You're going to want to have the buyer initial here. The most common loan types are conventional FHA and VA. So select the appropriate loan type here, and then make sure you're filling in as much of the information as possible. And keep in mind that this number here on line 61 is what the buyer is financing, not what they're putting down. So if they're putting down 5%, this number is going to be 95. If they're putting down 20%, this number is going to be 80%. So this number is the amount that they're financing, the amount of the purchase price that the buyer is financing. So keep that in mind. And if they're doing a cash transaction, you're gonna want them to initial. You're gonna have them initial subparagraph B or subparagraph C, depending on what they want to do. Now, paragraph 8, you're gonna want to go to the listing. You're gonna want to go to additional information, and the listing agent should have the disclosures there for you to view and download and send to your client. However, there are other circumstances where there may not be disclosures readily available. If it's an auction, or if it's a bank-owned property or a trust, something like that, you may not get them there, but that's where they're normally located. And any of the pamphlets, the EPA pamphlet, the IEMA documents, you should be in a habit of sending those to every buyer that you work with just by default so that they have them. So ideally, you'll be able to check mark all of these as has and have all your bases covered there. Now, paragraph 9 is property tax proration here on line 122. So customarily, where I work, it's 105%. If you're doing more business in the Chicago area, you'll see a lot of 110% requests. If you're buying property as is, sometimes you want to do 100% to make your offer a little stronger. But generally speaking, the most common tax proration requests are 100% to 110%, at least in the Chicago area. Subparagraph B is HOA, Homeowners Association information. Now, attorney review, paragraph 10, and then paragraph 12, the inspection contingency are, the inspection contingency is that the buyer has 5 business days to schedule and perform any inspections that they'd like, and then they have another 5 business days, which is the attorney review period, to discuss those the results of those inspections with you, their agent, with their attorney, and then come up with any requests that they may want. And that's a part of the attorney review period. Also a part of the attorney review period is that the attorneys will work with their clients to go over any specific terms or changes to the terms of the contract that exist. And so that is a 10-day period, and the inspection period is generally 5 business days. Paragraph 11 here, we don't see it too often, maybe a little bit more in this current market, but waiver of inspection basically just means if your buyer doesn't want an inspection at all, then you have them initial that. A lot of buyers and buyers agents are using that as a negotiation tool, so that to make their offer stronger and to make it stand out in such a crowded marketplace right now. So moving on, going down to, we're in page 6 here, title, plat of survey. A lot of this stuff your buyer's attorney will go over with them. But again, I have a good grasp on the entire contract. So if you have any questions about things I'm not going over, let me know. Here, so in paragraph 22, ideally you're going to check mark these, have the buyer initial, and then have the seller initial, just to confirm that there's nothing outstanding regarding special assessments or SSAs, special service areas. So check the listing. The listing agent should have any special assessments or SSAs listed. If they don't, a little due diligence by the buyer, yourself, or the buyer's attorney will hopefully confirm that there are none. But there may be. Occasionally there will be some, and you'll want to make sure that the appropriate box is checked there. So page 8, nothing really there to fill out. So here's an important section, paragraph 30. Now, if you're working with a buyer and they also have a home to sell, this is the paragraph where they will initial. And you're going to put their full address of the home that they're selling right here. And then you're going to want to check the appropriate boxes here in section 2. And so the first one is, has the buyer entered into a contract to sell the buyer's house? If they have, if it's already on the market and they're under contract, you click has, and then you click the appropriate boxes in A, B, and C. If they haven't put it on the market, you click has not, and then you skip right down to the next sections. And here's the thing, if you're working with a buyer and they have a home that they need to sell in order to buy, if they get their offer accepted, it's important for you to know that they're going to have 5 business days right here, line 390. They're going to have 5 business days to get their home on the market once that contract is accepted. So make sure your buyers are aware of that if they want to wait to put their house on the market until they're under contract, which is very difficult to do in this market, but if they do get something under contract that's contingent on the sale of their home and it's not on the market, they have 5 business days. So we're seeing less contingent offers right now. Someone might watch this video in a year or two and they'll be, more common, or at least get back to kind of the level that they were at before. But in this market, in such a competitive market, we don't see that very often. But yeah, this section can be a little tricky, so feel free to reach out to me anytime that you have a question about it. And then the contingency section also, might get a little tricky, but with specific questions, I can help you there. One thing about paragraph 30 here is that when you fill it out, you need to put a number here in line 420. And so the number you're typically going to put here is 48 or 72 hours. It can be any number of hours. I'm just saying this is what I see mostly, It's either 48 or 72 hours. And what this basically means is that when you work with a buyer that has a contingency to sell their house, the seller still has the right to market the property and receive other offers. If they receive another offer during your contingency, that's where this number comes into play. And it basically says the buyer has whatever number you put there, let's say 48 hours. They have 48 hours to either remove the contingency or the seller can cancel that contract and go with another offer. So we call that a kick-out clause because the seller will have X amount of hours to kick the buyer out if another offer comes through. So as we get down towards the end of the contract, you're going to see a home warranty. If the buyer wants a home warranty, you have them initial this section, and then you put a dollar amount for the home warranty that they want. And typically, I would find a specific home warranty that the buyer would be happy with and put the dollar amount there. So if you need recommendations for home warranty companies, let me know. Paragraph 33, if the property has a well and or a septic system, that you're going to initial that so that the well can be tested and the septic system can be tested as well. If the buyer wants a termite inspection done, paragraph 34. If you're working with a VA loan, you're going to come to find out that termite inspection is required. So, that would be essential. Possession after closing, we do not see this a whole lot. It's typically in rare circumstances where you have to get a little creative. And this is basically the buyer closes on the purchase, but the seller stays in the house for X amount of days, and they don't take possession until a certain time period after the closing. Paragraph 36, as is condition, is the buyer going to purchase the contract or purchase the house as is? If they are, make sure you read this paragraph and you relay this information to the buyer, because if the buyer agrees to purchase as is, technically they're not, the seller and the seller's agent are not going to expect the buyer to request anything from any inspection, and they're just purchasing it in the condition that they see it. So, oftentimes I'll receive offers that are as is, and then down the road, the buyer might change their mind and they will then request something. It's typically not in good practice, but just understand that paragraph. It is more common these days to write as-is offers to make a stronger offer. And the last page here is just be as detailed as possible. Fill in as much information as you can. Fill in the buyer's name, have them sign and date, and then fill in all of your information, your brokerage's name, the MLS number, license number, all your information, your phone number, email. This information can be important because if somebody needs to contact you throughout the transaction, you don't want to put some generic number here that goes to, an office line. It's important to put your number that can be called or texted. At least I find that to be very helpful. The mortgage company, if there's a loan involved, and the buyer's attorney. These are all things that you can plan ahead and put in the contract once it's written. One last thing I want to mention, and this is super important, is that in our MLS, if you go to a listing, you can have there's the option to auto-populate a contract. You can have the MLS create a contract with all the information that's already in there, the address, the PIN, the seller's brokerage, the buyer's brokerage. All the information will automatically be populated and you won't have to worry about it. I highly recommend that all agents create the contract in the MLS, download it, and then fill out the rest of the information after that. It will save you a ton of time, throughout the year, and the information will be very accurate. It fills in the personal property that's already in the MLS for you. If you need help with that, let me know. I can show you where to find that in the MLS. But these are the main sections that I look at when I'm going through a contract with a buyer, and there's a lot more information here. So I encourage you to read the contract in full, word for word, make notes on things that you don't understand, and either reach out to your managing broker or, like I said, I'm happy to help. So you can always reach out to me Leave a comment below or email me anytime. You can visit our website, stollrealestate.com, STOLL realestate.com. Other than that, I hope this was helpful.